Hello, everyone. Today is Monday, July the 31st. I'm Ryan Hill.
I'm John Galantis.
And you're listening to Clearview Today with Dr. Abadan Shah, the daily show that engages mind and heart for the gospel of Jesus Christ. You can visit us online at clearviewtodayshow.com, or if you have any questions for Dr. Shah or suggestions for new topics, send us a text at 252-582-5028, or you can email us at contact@clearviewtodayshow.com.
That's right. You guys can help us keep the conversation going by supporting the show, sharing it online, leaving us a good review on iTunes or Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasting content from. We're going to leave a link in the description of this podcast so you can do just that. Today's verse of the day comes to us from Titus chapter 2, verse 1 and 2. But as for you, speak the things which are proper for sound doctrine, that the older men be sober, reverent, temperate, sound in faith, in love, in patience.
I love these letters from Paul, especially the ones to Timothy and Titus, these individual guys who are in the ministry that Paul was writing to and encouraging, because a lot of it is, I know that there are other people around you who are acting up, who are acting a fool, but as for you, do the things that you know are right.
Right.
Sometimes we use other people's sin and their disobedience as an excuse for our own, but we can't control what other people do, but we can control how we respond.
The Bible gives us a really perfect template in Paul's letters to Timothy of how proper church is conducted, and yet we look to I want to say the world, but it's really like the churches that surround us as the template. So if other churches are doing it, and there's lots and lots of people in those churches, they're and I'm using quotations here for the radio audience, they're successful.
Yeah.
I mean, so they're doing something right. So let's emulate them. But what happens when they are doing something that's contrary to what Paul is telling to Timothy here? Like, for example, focusing on sound doctrine.
Right.
The lights are great. The music is great. The screens are great. The creative, flashy videos are great. Is the doctrine sound?
Yeah.
More importantly, do the people of God care?
Yeah, Paul's letter to Titus here is so important because it reminds us that, we can't control what other people do, but we've got to be in control of our own selves and what we bring to the table at all times.
Speaking of sound doctrine, I need a sound doctor in here right now.
Oh, no.
Because my ears are muffled.
My ears
are no. We've been doing a lot of VBS this week.
We have,
or this past week, I should say. And also been wearing a lot of in-ear monitors for 15 years.
Yeah.
Like just constant click in my ear. I hear like, not a ringing, but everyone kind of sounds like they're talking just like this right here.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, huh? And my wife is like, and I'm like, what are you saying? She's like, I'm like, what? She's saying, can you take out the trash right now, please? But I'm like, oh my goodness, I straight up can't hear her. And I haven't gone to the doctor because I hate making appointments.
It is kind of a stressful thing. It's frustrating as an individual, but it's also frustrating as a parent.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have run into that with Gavin and Holden, but oh my gracious.
I'm sure Ellie has. I let her kind of deal with all that
anytime. Well, most of the time Elizabeth is making the appointments for the kids too, because she's usually the one that takes them. But it's just so many hoops to jump through and fill this out and this paperwork and this and this and this. Yeah. Especially if you have multiple kids, you got to write down the address and contact information and emergency contact and do we
the
release
child's
the
social
medical
security number and the child's this
5 times. If I tell you that my kids all live at the same address, please believe me. Like, give me a box to check. Everyone's at the same address.
And then they're asking all these questions. I mean, I hate to be the stereotypical dad, but they're like, sir, is your child allergic to any medication? I'm like, I can call my wife real quick. I don't think so. They're like, sir, I need to know if your child's allergic to any medication before we can process him and have him in the queue.
What are you talking about? Tylenol? Are you talking about
he can have
that you're going to give him?
He can have like a Flintstones gummy.
He's okay with a Flintstone.
I just hate making medical appointments, even for myself. You know what I hate more than anything else? I don't know if you feel this way or if just all people with glasses feel this way. I hate the eye doctor.
I don't mind the eye doctor quite as much. I hate the dentist.
I'll fight every eye doctor that exists. I'll with my fists.
To all the optometrists watching the show, we apologize. John's not actually going to fight.
I don't hate you as a person. I
hate your profession.
I think you're a charlatan. No, I'm joking.
You are a snake oil salesman.
You're a fraud. No, I don't think that. I just really detest going to the eye doctor. They always puff that little puff up
that's
air.
Not fun.
I like looking at the hot air balloon. I'm like, oh, look at the little hot air balloon, or like the little farmhouse, and then they got me.
My eye.
They got me, dude. I'm blind. I'm blind, and I saw a balloon. I don't know. And then they dilate your eyes.
Yeah. That's the worst.
And then you walk out into the sun, and your eyes just like cook like a hard-boiled egg.
You feel like your retina is on fire.
It's just the worst. And then you got to walk out with them little folded up little shades, and I'm like, is there a more tactful way to do this? I'm like fumbling. I can't drive. It's just no part of the eye doctor is pleasant. part of it is
I wonder if there's a key, if there's a hack that we don't know of with making doctor's appointments that would make it a more enjoyable process.
Maybe send them in. There's got to be someone listening out there right now who is like, I like making
cracked the code on making doctor's appointments. I don't know. Let us know. We're going to check with Dr. Shah when he gets in today. But if you have any questions or suggestions for new topics, text us at 252-582-5028 or visit us online at clearviewtodayshow.com. We're going to bring Dr. Shah in just a second. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, my name's Ellie.
And I'm David.
And we want to take a minute and let you know how we can actually serve you as you're listening to Clearview today.
The Bible paints an extraordinary picture of who we are as a church body. The mission of Clearview Church is to lead all people into a life-changing, ever-growing relationship with Jesus Christ. A huge part of leading people is praying for them. A big reason that Christians have unanswered prayers in their life is because they're not praying.
You know, 1 John 5:15 says, "And if we know that he hears us, whatever we ask, we know that we have the petitions that we have asked of him." If you're listening to the Clearview Today show, we want to know how we can pray for you as well.
There's a number of ways that you can get in touch with us at Clearview and share your prayer request, but the best way is by texting us at 252-582-5028. You can also send us an email at prayer@clearviewbc.org, or you can download the Clearview app on iTunes or Google Play. You know, on that app, there's a dedicated prayer wall that helps us to get to know what's going on in your life, how we can pray for you, and how we can take any necessary steps to get you moving in the right direction.
Thanks for listening. Now let's get back to the show.
Welcome back to Clearview Today with Dr. Abadan Shah, the daily show that engages mind and heart for the gospel of Jesus Christ. You can visit us online at clearviewtodayshow.com, or if you have any questions or suggestions for new topics, send us a text at 252-582-5028.
That's right. And if today's your first time ever joining us here on the Clearview Today show, we want to welcome you, let you know exactly who's talking to you. Dr. Abadan Shah is a PhD in New Testament textual criticism, professor at Carolina University, author, full-time pastor, and the host of today's show. You can find all of his work on his website. That's abadanshah.com.
Dr. Shah, I have a question for you, because you and Nicole, 4 kids. How much time did you spend taking kids to and from the doctor?
Oh my goodness. In the early years, a lot. Yeah, they were getting sick. Mm-hmm. They're like little Petri dishes. They just
Bacteria
grow.
just growing.
Yeah, and they pass it on to us, and then pass it on to each other. So there were times. And then a couple of our kids, early years, like one had their adenoids removed. So it was a lot of trips to the...
Did you feel like the check-in process for doctor's appointments or even sick visits or anything like that, do you feel like it was as smooth and as streamlined as it could have been? Because it's helpful for me to hear you say that, because when Elizabeth and I have taken our kids to the doctor, I feel like it could be so much simpler than it is.
Yes.
It's just so many hoops to go through, so many extra things. I feel like...
Especially in our age of technology, you would think we would have these things figured out.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But still behind all this technology are people, and people have to implement certain things like follow-up, like a return phone call. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, we're going to communicate this across the board. It goes on our master calendar that your appointment is there. I mean, it doesn't happen.
See, I was saying for me, it went from like, all right, I'm growing up and my mom makes all those appointments for me. Now you're married, you just get Elizabeth to make all that stuff for you, and you don't have to think about it.
Well, I'm talking about
the same thing, but like with Nicole, just if she makes the appointments, you don't have to even consider it. You don't even have to go if you don't want to.
I think that's probably not the best course of action.
What were you talking about?
Well, just it's so frustrating, especially when we have multiple kids at the doctor for checkups or something, to have to fill out the same questions multiple times. Like, if I tell you that all my kids live under the same household, I shouldn't have to fill this out 5 times.
Right.
I shouldn't have to put in my address 5 times, and yet here we are. So check-in is like a 45-minute process per kid, and then you've already missed your doctor's appointment by the time you get there.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
It's
I didn't think about it from the aspect of taking multiple kids at the same time.
Yeah, it can be a little exhausting.
I don't know if we've done that.
And I feel for the people behind the desk. Sometimes I think they themselves are tired. Mm-hmm. They want to, do something different. But sometimes they feel like, okay, this is a system. I'm just simply following policy. This is our manual we have to go through. So I'm sorry. Please just do it.
Yeah, please just fill in the blank.
Yeah, here are the things. That pass it big and back to me when you're done.
Would you rather do that for a day or the DMV for a day?
For a day?
Yeah, for the day.
Wow.
Like that's your day.
No, I'll take
The doctor.
the doctors.
Yeah, same.
I would take the doctor. Too.
Same.
Yeah.
That's rough, but I don't want to go to the DMV unless I was like, absolutely have to.
Sometimes I feel like I'm in trouble.
I know.
It always feels like that. Like you're just waiting on them to call you into the principal's office.
Sir, can you come on? I'm like,
so-
I'm sorry. I was just
sorry.
here to get my license renewed. When did it expire, sir? Like you can read it on the. No, I'm not asking about the license. I'm asking you. When did it expire? Like, bro, I don't know.
No.
My wife told me to come up here at 8 in the morning. Yeah, 8 in the morning too is way too early to be
yikes.
that intense at 8 in the morning.
Yeah. That gets if anything, that's going to get your blood pressure rising.
You always try to go earlier to the DMV, and no matter so that you don't have the stress of it. But no matter how early you go, it's always unpleasant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
I think it's because sometimes the people have to deal with people who should not be getting a license.
That's
right?
very true.
Or people who just cannot get things straight, or they're messed
Don't have
up.
this
Yep.
stuff.
So, I feel bad for people who are behind the desk because I think many times they get blamed. When in reality, they're doing the best they can with what they have to deal with, I guess.
Yeah,
That's
true.
what I can say.
That's true. That's
So-
true. Maybe, I don't know, maybe in the process of doing all that, getting you back there to check your vital signs or something, it's a little difficult to get everything, as smooth as possible.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the person in front of you who dumped
Had a
on
bad
them.
attitude, and then it passes down to the other people. Who knows?
Well, we're talking about today. We want to start a brand new series here on Clearview Today. We're going to talk through the churches in the book of Revelation. And as I say that, I know there are people who are listening who heard the word Revelation and their ears instantly perked.
You ever seen like prairie dogs just kind of poke out of their holes? Revelation.
Huh?
Now, this seems like something I could follow.
Well, I love this because these are messages that you've preached, Dr. Shah, and it
Yes.
talks through these churches, but it does it in such a way that is so impactful and so relevant for us today. So important for us to understand what the message was to the churches, and by extension, what the message is for us.
I appreciate you said that. They're relevant, but I don't want to make them more relevant than they need to be. And here's what I mean by that. Over the past 20 years, let's just say 20 years, the statistics have been exaggerated about how many churches are dying. So yes, churches are dying. Churches are closing their doors for the final time. But thank goodness in America, the stats are not at the same level as they are in, say, Europe. Okay. Also, there are people in America, and there are research entities, let's just put it that way, who exaggerate the number of churches closing. I don't exactly know their motive behind it. But I feel like it is almost like, okay, so churches are dying. So here is our solution. Implement this. Buy our book, our program.
Oh, that makes sense.
I think that's what's also happening.
A little bit of fear mongering to drive sales.
Fear mongering drives their sales. And I don't like that one bit.
Yeah.
I'd rather you tell the truth and say, yes, there are churches closing. Yes, there are pastors leaving the ministry for the last time. And here are the numbers. But they're not as drastic as we are making them out to be. I don't like that.
Yeah. Well, it seems just kind of intellectually dishonest if there is an issue that should be addressed, but rather than addressing the issue, we're going to provide some sort of half-hearted solution that requires you to buy my book or follow my
Follow
philosophy
this program
or
that I've
whatever.
developed, subscribe to this newsletter, whatever, implement this paradigm that I have come up with. Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, and then you don't really think about it that way because we're all for people, making their profit or whatever, but
Yeah.
at the same time, if you truly believe that this is an issue for the church, why is it going to be behind a paywall?
Yeah.
Or are you perfectly willing to let churches die if they don't buy your book or
and
if
this
they
is-
don't subscribe to your program?
This is why I love this series of messages so much, because it's not like your church is dying, so you need to have done this. This is, hey, you need to check the spiritual health of your church. You need to check in, just like you go to a doctor, just like you have a checkup. You need to check in and see where you are and course correct as needed.
Right. Just like Jesus said to the church in Philadelphia, you have a little strength. A lot of these churches have a little strength, but sometimes I believe people, denominational leaders, booksellers, people in these research entities, they tend to make it sound like by droves people are leaving, by droves they're leaving, and it's like, where?
Right.
Where? You asking me where? Just look.
Look around. That's
Okay,
one of the
wait,
most
wait,
cop
where do
out.
you want me to look?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
one of the
where?
most cop out answers
me in
I've
the
ever
direction.
heard. Like, can you point me to these specific instances? Look around.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
I
everywhere.
mean,
Look
like
around.
Just
what?
every church. Yeah, I do know that. So let's clarify again. Yes, baptisms are down. Yes, salvations are down. Yes, there are people who are leaving, but don't make it look like by droves. When you add that, means now you are using scare tactics to get something.
Right.
And I do not care for that at all.
Yeah.
It's almost the inverse of what you typically see, where people exaggerate how many people come to their church. Like like sometimes people will exaggerate how much good is being done.
Right.
They're also exaggerating how much bad there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had never really considered that before.
Yeah.
We sat down to talk about it.
People I feel like will snag onto a negative report. Like, oh, bad news. Oh, tell me more about this bad news.
And then buy my product.
Right, exactly. Exactly. For the low price.
of $19.99, you can save your
In
church today.
17 easy payments.
So my suggestion is let's be real. And be real in the sense that, yes, your church is dying unless you bring some changes. Yes, it is a terrible news. And yes, we need to be alert, wake up. But at the same time, don't make it more than it needs to be. Because then my question is, so what is the solution? Well, my solution is for $19.99.
Right. Yeah, right. I think the thing that really gets me about these letters is that Jesus himself took it seriously enough to say, hey, listen, I care about you. And
That's
I
it.
want these churches, I want your church. I see the good that you're doing, and I want them to survive.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it shows the
he's-
heart behind it.
He's behind every one of the letters that Paul wrote, that Peter wrote, John wrote. But here he's like, he is the narrator behind this to the church in Ephesus, to the church in Sardis, to the church in Thyatira.
Right.
He is saying, I'm the one speaking to you. So he is the one in all the other letters, but here is like, hey, don't forget, behind all of them, it's me. And here, let me just tell you, it is me.
Yeah. That's crazy.
He's serious.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Flipping through your Bible, you see red letters in Revelation. You're like, oh, wait a minute.
I know.
You hadn't seen them in a while. There they are
Seeing the red letters outside of like those four gospels.
Yeah.
But it breeds that kind of new life where it's like, let me pay attention.
let me
here.
listen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important for us. So I love the way that you've set up this series, Church Autopsy. That's such a cool title, Church
Right.
Autopsy. I mean, like we've got to examine this body. We've got to examine these bodies that we're talking about in Revelation and figure out what it is that they were dealing with, what the struggles were, and what we can learn from those letters.
Do you feel like a lot of times when we talk about the church, we forget or we kind of ignore the fact that it's made up of individuals? Like a lot of times when I talk about the church, it's this big faceless entity out there
Yeah.
that I may or may not contribute to.
Right. Yeah, here it's individuals who make up this body in this particular place and time that Jesus was telling them, 7 of them to be exact, right on the Aegean coast, right on the western end of Turkey, Asia Minor, Anatolia. And Jesus spoke to these churches and warned them to change or else. And the else was, I'm coming quickly to remove your lampstand. It's not like you're just going to die. It's more about, I'm going to come and take your light away. So today, if you go to these places, the churches are gone. Now,
I was going to ask you, how
Yeah.
many of these places did you have a chance to actually visit?
I would say altogether 4 of them.
Wow.
Yeah, the other 3 we were able to go past them, but for time's sake, just could not stop. So I didn't get to visit Sardis. I didn't get to visit Thyatira and Philadelphia. These were the 3 I didn't get to see, but I did get to see Ephesus, Smyrna, Laodicea, and one more.
Pergamos?
Pergamum.
Yep.
Pergamum. Went to see that one. And so those 4 I saw, and the 3 I couldn't, but they're on my list to go see.
The thing that struck me about seeing them is when you picture it in your head, you picture like, yes, they're in ruins, but it's like this big intimidating fortress that's kind of got moss on it, and it's like, no, this is a field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a field. Like when they were destroyed, they are gone.
Like Ephesus. And this is one of the first church we'll look at. About maybe 10% of Ephesus has been excavated.
Mm-hmm.
And if today archaeologists put their shovels in the ground and just go at it, it will take about 600 years to completely excavate this city.
Wow.
Completely excavate. That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
A lot of city underground. So where are those churches? Underground. I'm not talking about some persecuted underground. No, they're gone. They're buried under the sands and the silt of time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that makes the I don't want to say desolation, but that makes the I guess the destruction or whatever you want to say, it just makes it that much more complete.
Yeah.
Because again, I think of these big like empty hallways, just you can see but it's a field, it's grass, it's land.
Many places there's nothing there
Yeah.
at all that tells you that there was a church here.
Yeah.
And this is a warning for us that if we don't change, if we don't deal with sin, or if we don't deal with whatever disobedience there is in our church body as a group we're talking about, that this is the same judgment that's coming against us. And so 7 different churches, 7 different, I guess, indictments against them. And Jesus is saying the same thing to us today.
Wow.
Change or else.
So important for us. And I love that we've talked about the churches being buried, because what do you do with a corpse? What do you do when something has no life in it? You bury it. You put it in the ground.
That's right.
Gosh, that's such a
it's like-
chilling thing to think about.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can do with it.
Yeah.
And just the sort of finality of it it's done.
Yeah.
What more can I do? And if Jesus himself is saying that, like, it's done, you're dead.
Yeah. Now, don't misunderstand. Church will never die. The gates of hell will not prevail against it. We know that. As a body, that church will go somewhere else and shine. So please don't misunderstand. We're not saying that the church died across the board. No, church went on somewhere. But in that location, the light went out. And so 7 different churches. A question for our churches today, those who are listening, even our church at Clearview, is, are we in that same situation? Do we resemble one of these churches?
Right. Because each of those churches represents some problem or some sin that is plaguing churches here today.
Absolutely.
And so it's kind of like your parable series that you preached a while back. It's like the purpose of them is not for you to just learn a lesson. It's for you to look in the mirror and say, which one of these is me?
Right.
Yes.
You know, who am I? Like in the parables, who am I in that story? I'm somebody.
Like the sower went out to sow. Am I the good soil? Am I the wayside? Am I the stony ground, or am I in the thorny bushes? Which one am I? That's
And I think
thing
most people would look at these 7 churches and be like, oh, the Ephesus, they lost their first love. That's why. Well, churches ought not to do that. No. My church ought not to do that.
right. And that actually is a great kicking off point for this little summary show here today. The first church had lost its first love. Now, Jesus compliments the church in Ephesus, and then it says in verse 4, this is Revelation 2:4, nevertheless, I have this against you, that you have left your first love. And a lot of churches will have to say, you're doing a lot of good things, you're doing a lot of ministry, you have works, labor, patience, and you cannot bear those who are evil. Great, compliments to you. You stand against heresy, compliments to you. But you do not have the same love for Jesus Christ that you did when you first started.
It's kind of like we see that in marriage too. Like a lot of marriages, they start super strong, or even just relationships. Like when you're teenagers, start super strong. You want to be around each other all the time, and then the more familiar you get, the more comfortable you get, you start to just
drift away.
Just lose your luster, absolutely. And in the context of church, in the context of a relationship with God, it can be easy to get busy with doing church stuff, being involved in ministry and serving and volunteering and all that kind of stuff, but then to lose the why, to lose the love of Christ that we get the chance to show to other people, to lose sight of that.
Yeah, it's easy. I appreciate you saying that, because I think the average person doesn't get super involved in the how and the logistics of how we do this, like people in ministry do, but that love and that passion certainly starts to fade over time as just more and more things start
it's just
to pile
beauty.
up.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then the second church, and hopefully in the weeks ahead or days ahead, we're going to take each of these autopsy reports apart and ask the question, what happened here? You know, these 7 letters are like an autopsy report.
That's right.
If you look at it kind of looking back. So churches have died, the lights went out. Why did they go out? Well, we cannot dig into the ground and find those churches because that's going to take years and years to figure out.
Right.
And we don't have any documentary evidence. You can't just read coins, numismatic evidence, and go, oh, here it is.
Yeah.
Here's we can. No, we have to look at these letters and go, this is what Jesus told them. They did not obey, hence they're dead. So we're looking at these, just kind of a summary show today.
Right.
The second one was this church that did not have the courage in the face of trials. Because Jesus told them in Revelation 2:10, this is the church in Smyrna. We went there, which is modern-day Izmir. He said, do not fear any of those things which you're about to suffer. Indeed, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison that you may be tested, and you will have tribulation 10 days. Be faithful until death, and I will give you the crown of life.
Yeah, it's a big ask, and it's something that I think people are quick to jump on the bandwagon until death comes knocking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, until trouble comes knocking, and we saw that. I mean, even these past 3 years, we've seen that where before there was ever any hint of a fight or ever any hint of danger, we were like, yes, we're going to stand for the glory of Jesus. And then it's like, your church needs to shut down right now.
Yeah,
okay, yeah, I'll shut down. Just tell me what to do, and we'll do it.
For many people who said those same words, from those same people came church is an essential.
Yeah, this is not an essential
everybody's saying
business, and so we're gonna find new creative ways to make it easier for you guys to tune out. We're gonna do it online, and we're gonna do this and that, and like yes, that's true, but none of that stuff was in place. This is all an after the fact response that we're trying to now pretend we're essential while saying that we're not.
Yeah.
And so Revelation 2:10 is a very important warning to churches. Do not fear any of those things which you're about to suffer. It means you're going to go through suffering, and devil is going to throw you and some of you into prison, but do not fear.
Yeah.
And it kind of ties in, and we're going to cover this later on when we look at this autopsy report in detail, that it was it was sort of parallel to what the Hebrew young men went through, because they were thrown into the fiery furnace,
Oh, that's true.
and they did not give up. We'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, I love that.
So that's the second church.
This idea that churches could die from fear. I mean, how many of us struggle with that? How many of us have gone down that road, and just to think like a church died because of that?
Yeah.
So that's chilling to me. What is the third church?
The third one is the one in Pergamum. Pergamum, we did go. Pergamos. And Bergama is what it's called in Turkey today. And by the way,
that's interesting to me to see how the names
how they
change.
changed,
From
yeah.
Smyrna to Izmir, Pergamum to Bergamos.
Yeah.
most of these names, they go back like thousands of years. And then when different peoples came, and because of just the way those words formed in their mouth and they couldn't pronounce them, that they ended up saying something else.
That's so interesting.
Or they began to emphasize certain syllable in that name. So Smyrna became Izmir, Izmirna.
So was it Izmirna first, or it was Smyrna originally? And
No,
now
it was
it's
Izmirna.
Oh, so when you go there now, that's what it'll be.
Izmir.
Okay, that's pretty crazy.
And same with Pergamum.
Pergamos?
Yeah, it's Bergama.
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 Okay.
Bergama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bergama. It's just, just how names develop.
Yeah.
But here the problem is a little different. Here's the problem in Revelation 2:15. Thus you should also have those who hold the doctrine of the Nicolaitans, which thing I hate. Repent, or else I will come to you quickly and fight against them with the sword of my mouth.
Look how seriously Jesus takes false doctrine.
Yeah.
We I don't know if I want to say we play around with that, but we're very, and I have been in the past too, very loose. Well, listen, we have our primary and our secondary and our
Yeah.
tertiary doctrines, and these ones, they're not as important. Jesus is saying, not only do I hate them, I will fight them.
Yeah.
Like, golly, he's not playing around.
Yeah,
Right.
Doctrine matters. Everything hinges on that. That's the foundation for everything. So if you have this one issue, and you said this before, Dr. Shah, if you have this one issue that you think is not a major issue, explore that a little deeper, because there could be major issues tied to that.
Yeah, is Jesus willing to fight me on this doctrine? Because if he is, I'm going to lose.
Yeah.
So I need to really think through which ones I'm saying aren't as important.
This tiered approach to doctrine that people have, primary, secondary, tertiary, on the surface it seems good. Like, oh yeah, okay, I can see that. Let's put salvation in the primary doctrine. Let's put baptism in the secondary doctrine. And let's put creation in the tertiary doctrine. No, okay, I get it. We have to sort of do that so we can work together on bigger causes in our communities, in our nation, come together so we can have a Christian voice. But then there's a problem. If you put baptism in a secondary doctrine, what happens when someone says you have to be baptized to be saved?
And people say it.
Well, now it's connected to the
Yep. To the
primary
primary
doctrine.
Right.
Yep.
What are you going to do? Now, are they willing to set that aside? Probably not.
Yeah.
What do you do when people say, well, just sprinkling a little baby is fine to do. You don't have to be baptized to be saved. Okay, I'm not here on this show arguing about that at this point. Maybe
Right.
another show we
Right.
can do that.
Right.
But if you believe that, then truly there are ramifications when it comes to the doctrine of salvation.
Yeah. The point that he's making is that, the doctrines that we're too quick to say something doesn't matter.
Yeah.
When Jesus says it absolutely matters.
Yeah. How about creation? Right? Genesis 1. Hey, it doesn't matter whether you believe in a old earth theory or you believe in a young earth theory. It just comes down to what you believe, but ultimately it doesn't matter because that's the tertiary doctrine. We can get along. Okay, yes, we can get along. But just know sooner or later it impacts the doctrine of inerrancy.
That's right.
Because you have to make a decision.
Yeah.
Are the statements in the Bible, the propositions in the Bible, are they metaphorical, figurative, or are they actually what they're saying they are?
Yeah.
Or do you turn them figurative when they don't seem to compute with your way of thinking?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? So,
Yeah.
again, there's a lot we need to talk about. So doctrine is important, like John said. And the problem in this church was that they were beginning to tolerate bad doctrine.
And what about Thyatira? What was going on over there?
Well, Thyatira, there were, again, false doctrine was one of the problems there. But the punishment there was this woman Jezebel. All right, this Jezebel-like person who was trying to provide God's people with an ulterior or an alternate way to serve God. So you can serve the imperial gods or emperor as God, but you can also serve Jesus. So let's find a balance over here. So you can eat food offered to idols, and you can commit sexual immorality, the frat house kind of stuff.
Yeah, you can be not of the you can be of the church, but also a little bit of the world.
Right.
You can
Yes.
have the best of
You
both.
can do both.
That's one of the reasons people accuse us of saying, yeah, I saw them Saturday night all drunk and high and doing this and that, but Sunday morning they're in church. So this Jezebel was sort of promoting that way of living.
Nothing new under the sun.
Nothing
is
new
it?
under the sun.
No kidding.
Just a different garb.
Yeah.
And the punishment against her was, indeed, I will cast her into a sick bed, and those who commit adultery with her into great tribulation, unless they repent of their deeds, and even to the point of death. It says in Revelation 2:23, I will kill her children with death, and all the churches shall know that I am he who searches the minds and hearts, and I will give to each one of you according to your works. So the church in Thyatira, again, sort of the same problem, which is doctrine, but here the punishment was sickness and death.
Wow.
So think about that for a moment.
Well, we do that thing. We do that where we allow people who really don't have a heart for God or for the gospel or even for the Bible to tell us how things can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, you can have both. You don't have to be there all the time. Every time the door is open,
Right.
selling yourself. You can have a
let's
life.
not get extreme. Let's
Right.
not be obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like you
Gosh.
really don't have a heart for God at all, but you're telling me that I can still have a life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the church in Sardis, their problem again was they were alive in name only, but they were really dead. I mean, that's a big problem, and I would love to uncover that because of time. Let's move on to the next one, and this one was the church in Philadelphia. They were sort of paralyzed because they were just content in living out in the fields rather than coming in the door. Jesus told them in Revelation 3:8, I know your works. See, I have set before you an open door. No one can shut it. For you have a little strength, have kept my word, and have not denied my name. So come on in the house. And they were living out in the fields because they were afraid of the next earthquake or spiritual earthquake or spiritual earthquakes in the sense of persecution. And Jesus was saying the door is open. This is not the open door to run out. This is the door to come back in.
That's right.
In returning and rest, you will find, you will be saved.
Wow.
And then the last one, of course, is Laodicea. And everybody knows the problem there. What is the problem?
Being lukewarm.
You're
Yeah.
lukewarm.
That's the one everybody
That's the
remembers.
one.
Because that vivid imagery, like if Jesus tells you you're lukewarm, I'm gonna spit you and spew you out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna stick in
Yeah,
my
that-
mind. That's
that
the
one
one I
stays
always
with you.
remember.
I'd rather you be hot or cold, but since you're neither,
Yeah.
you're done. So I'm looking forward to going through each of these autopsy reports.
Me too.
And then finding the solution. What do we need to do to change? What needs to happen so we can return and continue to shine the light of Jesus Christ?
That's gonna be awesome.
Amen. We're so excited about this series. Excited for you to join with us. If you have any questions or suggestions for new topics, questions about what we talked today, send us a text to 252-582-5028, or you can visit us online at clearviewtodayshow.com. And don't forget, you can partner with us financially on that same website. Be a part of what God is doing through the Clearview Today Show. Join our Clearview Today Show family and be a part of impacting the nations with the gospel. We love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow on Clearview Today.